Welcome everybody. CTMTV in the house. Thank everybody who's been watching. Thanking everybody who's been subscribing. Thank you for going to YouTube, hitting that subscribe button, the like button. Thanks for the people who comment on the videos as well. Today, we're talking about A$AP Rocky found not guilty. Probably the longest few minutes of his life, one of them anyway. And we're going to watch some of that verdict right here, right now. We're going to watch that.
Are the foreperson? Yes.
As you can tell, man, it's got to be
Jury has reached verdicts? Yes, Your Honor. On both counts? Yes, Your Honor. All right, you have
the
to-
longest.
All right, would you give those-
How long is this video? 2 or 3 minutes maybe of his life. You got to sit here and wait for them to read your fate. The lawyers like, boy, we need this payday. They taking their time to get everything set up, and you sitting there heart beating, everything running through his head. Unless he knew that they was gonna get off, but most of the time you really don't know.
What we're gonna do, folks, is Deputy Bennett is going to give the verdict forms to juror number 1.
And to the kids out there, the youth, this is not typically how I go for people in court. So he is very grateful, very blessed, because a lot of times people don't get this verdict, especially if you have a witness that is testifying and pointing at you and say, he had the gun, he shot at me. So
Juror number 1, I want you to look at the verdict forms, and I'm going to want to know whether these verdict forms reflect your true and correct
Man,
verdicts.
I know he's going through it right now.
Look over her shoulder so you can review the verdict forms. And I'm going to want to know from you whether these are your true and correct verdicts. Once I've heard from both of you, give the verdict forms to juror number 3. Juror 3, look at the verdict forms. Juror 4, look over her shoulder. So ultimately, I'm going to want to hear from all 12 of you whether these verdict forms reflect your individual true and correct verdicts. Everybody understand? All right. You got it? These two different ones.
Man. Nobody wants to be in a situation where your freedom and fate is in another person's hands. Not a good feeling to be
Juror
in.
number 1, are those your true and correct verdicts? Juror number 2?
Yes.
Juror 3 and 4?
Man.
Juror 5 and 6? Juror 5, are those your true and correct verdicts? Yes. Juror 6? Yes. All right, let's get the verdict forms to juror 7. Juror 8, look over
Boy.
your shoulder.
Can't imagine, man, having to wait for this, not knowing, having to wait for it. You just got to wait until they start reading it. You just, man. You see, he got the praying hands on that picture.
Those are your true and correct verdicts? Juror 7?
Yes.
Juror 8?
Yes.
9 and 10? Juror 9?
Got to keep a straight face.
Yes.
Got to stay calm. Man.
Juror 11?
Yes.
Juror 12? Yes. All right, all jurors have stated that the... Yes, Your Honor.
Man.
The Los Angeles Superior Court, County of Los Angeles. People of the State of California versus Joaquin Mayers. Case number BA
Boy.
5081.
Boy, this stuff, man, make your stomach boil, turn over, make your heart skip a beat.
Above entitled action. Find the defendant, Joaquin Mayers, not guilty of...
Whoa, man. Boy, they had to calm him down. Say, this only one count.
Rebuttal
You got one more count to go.
defendant, Joaquin Mayers,
Boy,
not guilty of automatic
man.
firearm.
Look at them lawyers like, boy, we finna get paid, baby. Woo!
45
Finna get paid.
A felony charging count 5, jury number 9, forfeit.
All right.
Title for the cause, we the jury, in the abundant title action, find the defendant, Joaquin Mayers, not guilty of the crime of assault with a firearm in violation of Penal Code Section 245, subsection B, a felony of charging count
Man.
information is 18
This is not typical results for everybody. You have to realize this, that everybody don't get off this clean.
You periodically, you did what we asked of you at the very beginning, which is to give both sides a fair trial, pay attention, use your common sense, apply the law, and base your verdict on
Shout out to ASAP, man. Getting off beating that case. And try not to put yourself back in that situation again, because it may not be this clean, this easy next time. You got to be careful. But, man, shout out to ASAP, man, for beating that case, man. It's not easy to do. I'm pretty sure it cost a lot, even though it seemed like it wasn't a heavy case, but you're not in a courtroom facing 10 to 20 years. He didn't take the plea deal. People thought he was crazy, but he beat it. And what do you think happens to ASAP Telly now? They'll call him ASAP Rat, ASAP Telly, because I think what he did was he had to file the criminal charges in order to try to sue him civilly. And now that he's found not guilty in a criminal court, it's going to be hard to sue him for money in the civil court. But where have we come to where your homeboys sue you, man? That's pretty crazy. But so where we living in now, man? Shout out to ASAP, man, beating that case, because it's not easy to beat the cases, man. It's not. It costs a lot of resources being involved. You got to have really good lawyers. Those guys probably finna get paid handsomely. Hopefully he stays out of trouble. Go to Montego or something. I don't know. Go to where Rihanna from. Stop trying to prove yourself. Get out of there. It's not worth it. I hope people learn from this, realize, man, it ain't worth it, man. Sometimes you just got to let people go. Sometimes you got to separate yourself in order to avoid stuff like this. Man was facing the minimum, I think, was 10. The max was like 20, 25, something like that. He was facing 3 counts, I think, something like that. And you got to ask yourself, was it worth it? It's not worth it. Because I'm pretty sure the stress level that he had to face until he heard that no guilty was insane. It's hard to explain. When you on a hook like that, you don't know how it's going to go. It's in the fate of other people's hands. And he got the no guilty plea. Man, usually, based on stats and people I grew up with and knew, they don't really get the benefit of the doubt like that. It's really hard to get the benefit of the doubt. I don't know why, but it is. It's almost close to impossible, but he was able to make it happen. Shout out to ASAP Rocky for being found not guilty, man. I just hope that now he put safeguards in place to keep himself out of trouble. Stay out the way. You know, you got kids, you got a spouse, Rihanna's your spouse. Both of y'all got comfortable money. Just chill, man. You don't got to be out in the streets no more. It's over with, man. Leave the streets alone. So, that goes to my next question since we're talking about this, right? How difficult is it to reprogram the mind? How difficult is it? You grow up in the inner city, you grow up in the streets, you grow up in the hood, you learn all these things. You got an ego. You got to prove yourself that you can't be messed with. You don't take nothing off nobody. How difficult is it to reprogram and say that stuff don't even matter no more? I'm out of there now. I no longer need those things to survive. Maybe when I lived there, I needed them, but I don't need those to survive now. Let me know in the comments, how difficult is it to reprogram the mind? I know growing up in Southwest, a lot of times parents can only stay where they can afford, and they try to tell you, I know my mom did, she tried to tell you, my mom, be a leader, don't be a follower. Don't be influenced by everything that you see. I mean, she drove it home. When I used to watch movies, don't be influenced by everything you see. It's not real. Don't get caught up in the streets. It's not what you think it is. Be a leader, not a follower. How difficult is it to reprogram? Some people, they grow up in it, and it's a part of their DNA, and it's really hard to break from it because that's all that they know. That's what they tell me, man. That's all I know. All I know is the hood. That's all I know. And what I'm saying is, if you want to avoid situations like ASAP Rocky, avoid court, avoid the legal system, you have to reprogram your mind. You have to. If not, you're going to deal with the legal system. And let me tell you, it's like being in a spider web. It's like being in a spider web. Definitely not a place you want to be is in the legal system. So you have to learn how to reprogram your mind. The Bible says there is a way to a man that seemeth right. And you have to be able to have the discernment to say, the things that I'm doing, are they going to lead to success or lead to unsuccess? You have to be able to have the awareness to say, I don't want to go down this road because where it leads to, I don't want to go. So, with that being said, next one, how to break a generation cycle. How do we break the cycle? How do we break the cycle of dudes taking on the streets? How do we break the cycle of young men chasing women? How do we break the cycle of guys doing gang activity or banging and stuff like that? How do we break that cycle? As a community, how do we break it? Talked about it on the podcast on Tuesday. And we said we have to cultivate young politicians. I think we also have to cultivate generation of youth, not only for politics, but blue-collar work, tech work, trade, apprenticeship work, vocational work. There are so many avenues now that you can make a living, and you got to understand that it don't come fast. Even the money that come fast, you got to realize when you seeing dudes out here making money like that, you think they kingpins, only probably 1% of the street dudes get to that level, even if it's 1%. And by the time you get there, the feds are on you. Either somebody snitched on you in the background, or you're making too many waves and you standing out. But how do we break the cycle? How do we break a generation cycle? How do we break those family issues? Some people, alcoholism run in the family. Some people selling dope run in the family. Some people, the red light district run in the family. You have to break those cycles. You got to. Some people, violence is a generational cycle. You got to break them. I want to dare to say that my mom actually raised me to break the cycle. She probably didn't even realize it, but used to have tough talks with me. Used to always tell me, don't be like everybody else. You got to be a leader, not a follower. You don't have to fit in. And I definitely didn't fit in. Hung around people, but I still was myself at all times. I never really tried to blend. I think when I was younger, I did, probably like seven, elementary, seventh, eighth grade, tried to fit in. But once I got to probably like ninth grade, I think I just be myself. I know that sounds cliche, but you gotta learn how to be yourself no matter what. And it may not fit in with everybody, but it is what it is. You either roll with me or you don't. I'm not worried either way. But to break a cycle, you have to realize what the cycle is. A lot of times, families don't talk about the things that happen over and over and over. You just kind of got to realize it, see it for yourself, realize it, and say, I'm not going to do that. Because sometimes people don't like talking about those things because you touch that accountability piece, and it makes a lot of people have to think about the accountability part of it. But what I'm saying to a young person out there, if you growing up in that place or circumstance that is not conducive, um, you don't have the food, you don't have the proper infrastructure in place, you got to use that as motivation, and you still have to maintain a level of awareness to not get caught up in the legal system due to your circumstances. You probably can make a compelling case in court, but you're still going to do some time behind it. And the thing about exposure is you never know how you're going to take to exposure. Some people go to jail or they, get into the legal system on probation and they do their time and they get out of it and they go back to being productive. Some people go in the legal system and they get stuck. It's like a revolving door. They can't get out of it. That's why I asked earlier, how difficult is it to reprogram your mind? Because when you go to an institution or a jail, prison, or penitentiary, it's a whole nother mindset that you got to have to survive, according to what they say. I never been to neither one. I had to reprogram my mind not to even go there. We have to break those cycles. I had to break the cycle. I had to start back going to school and graduate at 40 or 41, one of them. I got to keep breaking the cycle. I got to study, take these master degree classes, and try to get into law school. I want to break the cycle. I want to bring information back to our youth. I want to show them and tell them that you can be productive and you can make it. If you live in crazy circumstances, you're going to have to put in crazy work to get out and maintain a stable lifestyle and not have to go back. Sometimes you can't control the situation that you're in, but you can control your reactions and how you move. You can control that. You can control your choices to a degree. You can when you're living under your parents' roof. You don't have to choose violence. You don't have to. You don't have to. There are so many places now. I mean, even if you have to go to a food pantry or a food bank, you can do that now. All of this is online too. You can find a food bank the nearest to you. They got programs out there. You don't have to rob anybody. You don't have to steal. You can break the cycle and do things in a decent and efficient way without having to put yourself in legal limbo. You can do that. Unless you want to go to the pen. And I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. I just wouldn't. Next topic. How to reject the street programming. I want you to look at that graphic right there. How to reject the street programming. You got a kid looking at a screen with a bunch of code on it. That's how it is growing up in the inner city, talking to the parents out there. Your kids outside playing or riding the school bus or riding the car with you, looking out the window into this world we live in, and they're seeing things and it could be programming something. They see the dude riding on gold Dayton's. Now the program being set. I want to ride gold Dayton's. How I do that? They see the dude with all the girls, the street dude with all the girls. Now they thinking I want to be street. They being programmed right in front of your eyes. Sometimes you're just not even paying attention. They're being programmed. A lot of kids that I'm seeing, when they go to school, they only go to school for 8 hours. If that long, but they're on the streets or at home more than they are at school. And they get most of their programming from what's happening at home. What they watching or what they taking in and what they learning. Environment. Whether you want to believe it or not, your environment can program you. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's real. You grew up in the projects, you could be programmed. Project programming. It's a different kind of programming. You grew up in in the inner city housing, a different kind of programming. Survival will program your mind to do some different stuff. You got to be careful about that. You got to reject that. Like my boy Pierre say, man, kids out here hungry. They don't got it. And they could almost get programmed to go get it, go take it from somebody because they don't got it. And then you get caught up, you go to the legal system. Now you got to program yourself how to survive in the box with other people that has been programmed to survive. Other people that's going to press you like you was pressing people. They're going to press you. And now you got a choice to make. So we have to reject, our youth has to reject that street programming because nobody wins in the street. Nobody. Most of the times in the streets, dead, in jail, and probably one of the worst things that can happen to somebody in the streets, I've seen it happen, is when you get older, the only people that can verify or vouch for you or your reputation, your street reputation, are the people that you grew up with in the streets. What happened when most of those guys go to jail or those guys, they die and get buried, they in the ground? Who was there to vouch for your reputation now? 15, 20 years down the line. All the work you put in, a whole new generation of kids, and they're looking at you like, I don't even know who you is. You're like, I put in work back in the day. Okay, that was back in the day. It happens. Times change, generations change. And I've seen it. Street people get older, and the only memories you have is pretty much what you have, and you really can't even talk about them because they can incriminate you. So you really can't even share them. Or doing some stuff that's so crazy you have to carry that. Feel like a burden. You got to carry those things. You know, you got a body. You call bodies. You change your life around, but you feel like you got to carry that baggage of, you know, taking lives or robbing people. You got to carry that because now you got to look behind your back. You don't know if that person coming back to get you. So we got to teach our kids to reject that street programming because it's not doing them any good. It's not. And I give you, when you get in the corporate world, it don't matter. They don't care about where you from. All they care about is, do you have the skill? Are you reliable? And are you going to put in the work? They don't care about what hood you from. They don't care about what set you repping. The only thing they care about is, can you do the job? So let me know in the comments, how do we reject or get our youth to reject that street programming? Because that street programming is really taking our kids down through there. They thinking they could do stuff that they really shouldn't be doing. They getting access to stuff that they shouldn't get access to. What you don't realize, man, in your 20s, you're not going to have major amounts of money in your 20s. That's only like probably like a 0.5, not even a 1%, like half of a percent of people in their 20s probably got money like that, either from an inheritance or they, got big in some kind of field, whether it's acting or music. But a lot of people don't get there that fast. It don't happen like that. But when you out here in these social media streets and you seeing people with money up to their ears, holding it in their lap, you thinking, I can do that too. You don't realize how much of their money is really real and how much of it is it's like paper money. It's that fake bundle of money you can buy. When you understand, I think they said in Forbes only 6% of people in the U.S. is making over six figures. Think about that. Only 6%, a 6 percentile of people are making over six figures in the U.S. Let me look it up again just to make sure. I want to make sure I'm reporting this right. All right, what's the percentage of people? Making six figures in the U.S. Okay, last time they checked, it was 17%. In 2023, 17% of U.S. households made between, this is household. This ain't even individual. Yeah, you're right. According to YouGov, 7% of adults aged 18 to 24 earned over 100,000 compared to 16% of adults aged 55 and older. 7% is very low number. Like if you lined up 10 people, maybe one person. Not even 10%. Maybe one person making that. And it only gets most time you don't reach your financial maturity until, like you said, into your 50s, 55 and older, and they're making 100,000 or more. We got to change that as a culture. We really have to cultivate our kids to get educated early, and they can raise that percentage early. But the cycle that happens, street programming that happens. Most dudes, when they graduate high school, they either get caught up in the drug game, the woman game, or the street game, depending on where you live at. We have to change that. You need to get caught up in the education game. You need to get caught up in the vocational game. Or you need to get caught up in some kind of trade, being a firefighter or something like that. For some reason, we have tricked ourselves that we don't need education. And right now, that's why we are always working the lower tier jobs as a culture. A higher percentage of us work the lower tier jobs. Go look on LinkedIn. And I just heard that United Healthcare are laying off 30,000 people. Most of the jobs are the call center reps, those lower tier jobs. Who do you think are working most of those lower tier jobs? We have to get our kids cultivated to get educated early. We have to. We have to. We cannot assume that our kids just gonna get it. It's not gonna work that way. We have to change the game. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Help us grow so we can reinvest back into the channel. The more you support, it don't cost a dime to hit the subscribe button. 90%, I think I've seen people are looking at it unsubscribe. Imagine if just 75% hit the subscribe button. That's all we asking. Just hit the subscribe button. It don't cost nothing to do it. All right, the last slide. Is ego the top issue that we deal with in the streets, in the culture, in the community? Ego. Every age group, I think, could deal with ego. Man or woman, deal with ego. And I can say your ego can get you in trouble. I'm telling you from experience. My ego has gotten me into so much trouble when I was younger. Ego mixed with arrogance equals crazy. And ego, something else. You gotta be careful about that ego.
They told me bust out my AP, perfect time, man.
People killing people over ego stuff, man. You hit me, I gotta hit you back. You say something about me on Instagram, now I gotta kill you. Ego stuff, man. I don't like the way you looked at me. Ego stuff. Some people are so ego they can't see another person be successful. I don't like that. He's successful. I don't like that. So I'm gonna have to take his life. Where are we at right now? It's crazy. This ego stuff is crazy. People will kill you just cause. It's sad, disheartening, all in one. We have to change our egos, man. There's nothing wrong with walking away. There's nothing wrong with walking away. But that street programming, you feel like you got to prove yourself. And then when you get in a situation like A$AP Rocky, where are all those people at that he's proving himself to? Where they at? Who was in court with him? His mom and Rihanna. Where the A$AP boys at? I didn't see A$AP Ferg in there. I didn't see the other A$AP dudes in there. I don't know, man. You know, you got to be careful about that ego and what builds your ego. If you let that street programming build your ego, you can end up in the legal system, man. And before you realize that you're doing 20 years in the can, and you probably got to do 85% of it before you can get out. If you're understanding what I'm saying, go watch that Wallow interview with on Club Shay Shay. Guy's a great example of what I'm talking about. With you got to get rid of the ego. He said, man, we got to change that. He said, man, I'm not built to kill nobody. I'm not built like that. And sometimes, man, it's almost like they get celebrated more. The violence and the hardness. When are we gonna change that street program that you got to be hard? You know what I'm saying? You got to step. You got to be a stepper. We got to change that. We got to change our egos, man. What happened to having an ego by being educated, being for the community? What happened to that ego? Now ego is all about drilling. How many women you could talk to? I've been there. I dealt with that. How many women you could talk to at one time? And then your ego can lead you down the path that you don't want to go. It can take you places that you don't want to be. So you have to be careful about that. Let me know in the comments, is the ego some of the top issues of why we do the things that we do as a community? Why people drilling on people? It's because of ego. I got to show them that I'm tough, that I'm the big dog around here. We stepping on each other. Yeah, I got the money now. I'm on top now. Think about Lil Durk. Hope that that's not true. But how do you get in that situation? Ego will cause you to do alleged things. I'm not even going to talk about what he did. I'm just saying ego causes you to do crazy stuff, whether people want to admit it or not. But we have to learn to control the ego, especially as men. We definitely have to learn to control. And like I say, some men, like I grew up without my dad. But guess what? Through life, trials, and tribulations, I had to learn how to control my ego. I had to learn how to control myself. I had to reject a lot of street programming. And I had to break generational cycles. The thing is, you may not have a support system. You got to be your own support system sometimes. Especially when you're trying to be a man, you're trying to grow up into being a man. You may not have a support system. I know before I got married, all I really had was my mom and my brothers. Shout out to my brothers. After, you know what I'm saying, growing up, then I got married, but I had to learn how to be a husband. I had to put my ego down. Learn how to be a leader. Because when you're a leader, you're egoless when you're a leader. You're serving everybody in the house. What do I mean by that? You're serving them. You're selfless when you have children and a wife. You have to be selfless. Even as a wife, you got to be selfless. If you get two selfless people together, that marriage is going to be solid. Because you both going to want to serve each other. But when you can't put that ego down, you're going to destroy things around you because of that ego. Happens all the time. Some people it happens over time. Some people it's like a ticking time bomb, like a powder keg. Boom. And destroy everything. So we have to change, man, how we deal with the egos and stuff like that. We got to change that. But once again, shout out to A$AP Rocky, man, for being found not guilty. I pray and hope that he stay out of trouble. He put safeguards in place. He don't have to prove himself to anybody, man. Stay out the streets, man. Nothing good happens in the streets. And all them people saying about the streets, where were the street guys at when this guy was in court? They wasn't in there. Matter of fact, let me go back and look at it real quick. Hold on, let me see.
Live, you can talk about the case with anybody you want to, or nobody if you don't want to.
I don't think I see any of those guys.
Mayor. Not guilty.
You see that? All women on that front row. I don't see none of the guys. And that's how it be. You don't reject that street programming. I'm going to close on this. You don't reject that street programming. You don't change your ego, put down that ego. You don't reprogram your mind. You'll be in court fighting for your freedom. Not worth it. Not fun. Nothing but stress. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. It's your boy Mike, and I am signing out.